Welcome to the Wealth Steading Podcast. This is episode 440. Today is January 4th, 2024. I'm your host, John Pugliano. I'm also the founder and money manager at investablewealth.com. Hey, Happy New Year. I think 2024 is going to present some excellent opportunities for swing trading. I'm not going to cover that today. We'll get into that more in coming episodes, and obviously that'll be the theme of the year as it unfolds. What I want to do today, though, is just give you some brief content to start out the new year. Before we get into that, a couple personal notes. Number one, the 100-day cough is finally subsiding. I'm much better. I appreciate all your comments, thoughts, and prayers and such. Also, I wanted to mention that if you've contacted me and you're not a client, well, I may be slower than normal in getting back to you. I'm extremely busy this time of the year, closing out the books from last year, doing all the compliance things to get started for 2024, and then, of course, watching the markets and running the business. It's just an extremely busy time of the year for me. So if you've contacted me, I'll do my best to get in touch with you. Again, I'd encourage you, though, make sure you're whitelisting anything from investablewealth.com or wealthsteading.com, because when I reply to your emails, oftentimes the replies will get stuck in a spam folder. So if you're expecting to get a reply from me, look in that spam folder and then make sure you're whitelisting everything. Okay, hey, speaking of spam folders, I just put up a blog over at the blogs and notification page at investablewealth.com. If you're on that email notification list, you'd have gotten notified about that. And I'm not sure why you're not on that notification list, because it is free. You don't get spammed. It's simply a place where I can put up information that's quicker to get out there than by creating a podcast, and it also makes a great place to put up charts and such. That's always going to be the place where I list my buy and sell purchases for the day or for the week. There's no surprises. Everything that's ever been posted is archived there, going back all the way to 2013. So scroll through it. If it's something you're interested in receiving, go ahead and sign up for it. But remember, whitelist anything coming from investablewealth.com or wealthsteading.com. Otherwise, those email notifications will likely end up in your spam folder. Now, in reference to those blog and notification posts, I do think they are of importance. They're a supplement to what I do here on the main podcast. Again, it's a place that's much quicker for me to get information out there than it would be either at the YouTube channel or here on the full-length audio version of the podcast. Most times it is supplemental information and it's not repeated specifically here, but today's an exception. I'm actually going to read to you the blog post that I put out today because I know a lot of you have asked me for predictions and comments about the new year. And I don't have time right now to get into a full-blown episode. In addition to my business being very busy this time of the year, we've also been blessed with a new grandchild. That's number 10. And I am looking forward to spending time with her this week. In any case, so I don't know how much content I'll get out here in the beginning here of January. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply read today's blog post to you. So those of you that don't subscribe to that and only listen to the podcast, at least you'll have something to hold you over. Okay, here it goes, word for word. Title page is No Prediction, Just a Thought for the New Year. Happy New Year. Here's some thoughts on closing out 2023 and ringing in 2024. The year ended with 20% plus gains for most indices. Maybe. Look at a long-term chart and you'll see that since 2021, the markets have continuously vacillated about 20% plus or minus. Just 8 weeks ago, the S&P 500 was down about 16%. No one knows where it will be 8 weeks from now, but there are plenty of predictions for how 2024 will turn out. Economists are predicting a sluggish economy with GDP growth of only 1.6%. Wall Street prognosticators are forecasting stellar profits with S&P 500 earnings growth of 10 to 12%. The reality will probably be neither. Despite all the marketing efforts, economists and analysts can't predict the future. Neither can you or I. As an example of analysts' extreme erroneous optimism, in early October 2022, FactSet reported that full year 2023 bottom-up EPS estimates for the S&P 500, which reflect an aggregation of the median EPS estimates for all of the companies in the index, would be $241.22. Final 2023 earnings will likely come in around $220, about 9% below the prior year's overly optimistic forecast. This year, analysts are again extremely optimistic and seem to like the concept of earnings around $240-ish. As of December 1st, 2023, FactSet reported that full year 2024 bottom-up EPS estimates for the S&P 500, which reflects an aggregation of the median EPS estimates for all of the companies in the index, would be $246.30. Assuming they're correct, I'm extremely skeptical. That means the S&P 500 is currently valued at about 19 times earnings, which correlates to a 5.26% return. Keep in mind that money market funds are paying at least that much. So effectively, the S&P 500 is priced for perfection and doesn't offer any risk premium. Think about that. Okay, that's where I end the article. And then I have a PS kind of there where I mention that if you're still curious about forecasts and predictions, here's a presentation I did last month. And then I put a link to my YouTube channel where I talk about investing themes for 2024. Incidentally, that was simply the audio version from the last episode. So there you have it. There's some quick content for you to start out the year 2024. I know when I'm reading numbers and such, it's very hard to visualize it when you're just listening to it in an audio podcast, and that's why generally I don't read my content. However, I do want to emphasize here the money line of that whole blog post is what I said at the end. And I'll repeat it. The S&P 500 is priced for perfection and doesn't offer any risk premium. If you're a new investor or you're not familiar with valuations and calculating earnings per shares and such, that may sound like gibberish to you, but trust me, it's an important statement, and I think you should think about it as we go into this new year, because I think the analysts are way too optimistic, and although we don't have to worry about the Federal Reserve purposely creating a recession like we've been concerned with over the last 22 months, I still think there's reason for caution because at 4,700 something at the S&P 500, there's a whole lot of optimism priced into that. And I think we're going to see a pullback before we see some stability. Hey, more about that in future episodes. As always, until then, this is John Pugliano wishing you the very best returns.